guys. Alright, this one is going to be pretty easy. We're just going to be doing the gray work. So we're going to put the goop on this, and this, and then we'll come back and highlight them just basically like we did the rocks. So this isn't going to be a big deal, and I'm not going to show you every little step that I take here. Alright, so we're going to take care of these things. I've just got some pretty thin goop mixed up here. Water, glue, gray paint, and some plaster. I've actually made this pretty thin because I don't need any texture on here. I don't want to lose any detail, but I do want to try to add a little bit of strength to it. So I'm going to go ahead and get these gooped up. Now the stairs, I'm not going to bother gooping a lot of the sides because you're not going to see it anyway. So we're just going to worry about the tops of the stairs here. I mean, I'll get a little bit on the sides, of course, but we're not going to take a lot of care with that. Okay, so this one's going to be a little harder without making a huge mess of myself. What I'm going to do, reach over here and get some toothpicks. Maybe. Just standard old wooden toothpicks. I'm just going to stick them up in the bottom now. I'm not worried about the hole because that's going to be sitting on the ground. Nobody's going to see it. So I'm going to put those there. Now I can goop this and I have something to hold on to. Careful in here because I don't want to get gray goop on the walls. So I'm actually going to do just the middle of this with a big brush, and then I'm going to get a much finer brush to get close to the walls because I don't want to make a mess of this. Well, here we go. So the first layer of goop is on. You can see I'm not worrying about the back, that's going to be glued down. So this fairly light layer of goop, it's pretty thin, but what we're going to do when this dries is we're going to black wash it because there's going to be some areas in here. I've cut some pretty deep divots and there's still going to be some pink showing. Now I could go back and do another layer of goop, but I don't really need that for this. I'm just going to black wash it to kind of deepen the shadows there and make sure there's no pink showing. Same thing with the steps. So I'm not going to worry about doing a second coat of goop there because I don't really need texture there. Okay, I've got the patio part done. I am going to put a second layer of goop here. The reason is because the plaster in this goop actually gives you a little bit of texture. And if I put a second layer on, it'll give me a little more texture, and this will have kind of a concrete-y type texture. Now, I mean, we're obviously not going for concrete here, we're going more for a slate look. But what that'll do is when I start dry brushing here on this flat area, it'll give me something with some tooth to grab the paint off the dry brush. So that's why we're doing that. Well, I lied to you a little bit. I said I wasn't going to put a second layer of goop on these, that I was just going to black wash them. I decided not to do that. One of the reasons is I didn't want to make these any darker than they were. Another reason is I had a lot of that goop left over and it was fairly thin, so what I did is I just took a pretty small brush and made sure I got any of the areas in the crevices that were still pink, made sure they got covered. And then I just went back and put a second layer of goop on that, and here, and there, and the door frame as well. There. So there will be no black washing. I also have gone ahead and overbrushed these things with a shade lighter gray than what I used in the goop. Overbrushing, if you're not familiar with that, is kind of like dry brushing except a lot more paint. You still want to use dry paint because you don't want to get it down in the cracks and it's bringing out highlights, but you're going to cover almost all the flat area. So it's a good bit of paint. Now we're going to get into dry brushing. I'm going to go another shade lighter and go ahead and dry brush these things. And I'm probably, so I've got the goop color, I've got this overbrush color, I'm going to do this dry brush color, and then I'm probably going to hit the highlights with some white. So four highlight colors on there basically, and I think they'll be good. So let's give this a shot. Oh, one thing I meant to mention to you, I dry brush a little weird. A lot of people, when they dry brush, will use a brush like this, very short bristle, kind of hard. Now, I actually don't like to use this kind of brush for my dry brushing, which I know is bucking convention and it's really weird, but you know, that's just how I am. I actually use a soft bristled brush. I don't know why, I just like the results of that better. I feel like I have more control of it. I have more control about how much paint's going on, and I don't know, that's just the way I do it. So if you see me dry brushing with a long bristled, soft bristled brush, that's why. Alright, so let's dry brush these up. Okay guys, now this actually takes a little bit different technique than the regular dry brushing, because there's not any you know, edges or anything to catch highlights. What we're actually trying to do is make this look kind of like slate stone. And so what I typically do with that kind of stuff, now I've already done the overbrush layer on here, so I don't know how well you can see that on camera, but it's actually, there's already a two-tone look. So you know, most of it's covered with that second shade of gray, but there's still a little bit of dark in there. Now this layer, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of splotch it around. Now my brush is still really dry, like dry brushing. Make sure it's really dry, because you can always go back and add some more. Get most of the paint off and just kind of splotch it on there. Now, if you think it's too much, don't freak out, because with grays, it's going to dry darker than it goes on. So don't think that you've over highlighted here, because it's going to tone down when it dries. Okay, so, and what we're trying to simulate here is not only highlighting from lights hitting it, but the actual like mineral streaks and stuff that are in the stone itself. So that's why you'll see me kind of, you know, blotch over here and blotch over here and blotch over here. I'm trying to actually get a little more paint on those areas just to give it some variation. And I'm going to go over this with another color too I'll blotch a little less, but that's why you see me just kind of jump around with the brush. And I've decided, after looking at this set of dry brushing, what I'm actually going to do is take the last color I did and actually mix that half with white and do another shade of highlighting. When I dry brush, I tend to use quite a few layers of highlighting, and I do very subtle shading. So, I mean, you got to kind of play with it to see what you like best. Most people will do, you know, for gaming table level stuff, you don't need this level of detail. It's kind of overkill, but this is just how I like to do things. I'm more of a detail type person, so I really like to go for more realism. And to me, what that takes is multiple levels of shading. I'll typically do at least 4 or 5 highlight colors on, especially rock, gray rock, because I just think it looks nice like that. So I use very subtle shade gradations and do a lot of layers. Alright, so here we go with the half gray, half white. Alright, so that layer's done. So you can see it's getting pretty, looking pretty nice, I think. I'm going to do one final just tip highlight with just white. So here we have it. This is the finished stonework. Let's see if we can get you a better shot of this. You can see there's a lot of subtle shading in there. Like I said, you don't have to do this many layers. I just find that's the most realistic way to do the stone for me. That's what works best. So you can see the texture where we push the stone into the foam has actually come out quite nicely, and the patio area I think is looking pretty decent. Now there's going to be, you know, this isn't going to be just purely open, so like I said, there's some other things we're going to be doing in here, but that looks pretty good, I think, for like a slate type area. Alright, so I'm gonna glue these pieces in, and then I think we're pretty much done with the stonework. So let's do that and we'll be right back. Okay, so I've got this glued in here. I just glued this, put some white glue on the back of this and stuck it on the wall. Made sure it was lined up nice. No big deal. I put glue just on the sides and the back of the stair piece and actually slid it in from the bottom. If you are doing something like this and you put the glue on the sides and you slide it in from the top, you're going to rub glue all over this stuff here and it's going to be kind of a pain. You can get it off, but why work? Slide it in from the bottom and you don't have that problem. I had to clamp this together because this piece was actually bowed out a little bit, so this will fix that, but I got to clamp it till it dries. So next time what we're going to do is we're going to get to play with some balsa wood. So thanks for sticking with me, guys. Have a great day. Okay, this one's going to be, yeah, well, let me try again. You know, don't listen to me ramble. I'm probably going to cut all this out because I sound like a complete goof. That'll be, well, not too long. Man, I'm going to have to edit the tar out of this thing.